Let me tell you something about living in Pine Valley. Nobody warned you that the Homeowners Association isn't just a bunch of old folks fussing over mailbox colors. It's a machine, and if you step out of line, that machine will roll right over your life, and I mean that literally. I woke up one morning to diesel engines shaking my bedroom windows, thinking maybe it was the county road crew. Nope. It was two bulldozers tearing apart my hand-built deck, the one my mom used to sit on, and a woman in an orange safety vest barking orders like she owned the place. My coffee mug hit the floor and shattered, and I just stood there in my boxers watching 3 generations of my family's hard work being pulverized. Yeah, that happened. Now you might be thinking, didn't you know about the HOA? Let me back up a sec. I never signed a thing, never went to a meeting, never saw a letter. But apparently I owed $5,000 in fines for unauthorized restoration work. The woman, Wendy Parker, she called herself, looked me right in the eye and said, "We're here to protect alpine ecological integrity, Mr. Thompson. Your property falls within our jurisdiction." She had this official badge, and she sounded so confident for a second I started to doubt my own sanity. But the kicker, it wasn't just my property they were after. My neighbor Tom came running up in his pajamas, looking about as lost as I felt. His mom, Rosa, had just gotten fined $800 for her flower boxes, these same boxes that have brightened up the ridge for 40 years. She paid because she was scared. Tom's face turned pale as he pointed at his family's cabin, and I knew this wasn't about integrity. This was a shakedown. So I called 911. Deputy Martinez showed up clearly wishing he was anywhere else and basically said, "Sorry, looks legal, can't help you." By lunchtime, my deck was a pile of splinters. My grandfather's stone pathway was just rubble, and a century-old oak tree's roots were hanging out in the wind, probably dying. The money, yeah, $50,000 easy. The memories, priceless. Wendy didn't seem like your average corporate stooge, though. When she talked about protecting the mountains, her eyes burned with real conviction, like she actually believed she was saving something. That bothered me almost as much as the bulldozers. I spent all afternoon calling lawyers. None of them would take the case without thousands up front, and none promised results. I called Carter Stone, my old friend and legal counsel back in my days in state politics. He said, "This smells like a scam, Marcus, but let me see the paperwork first." That night, Tom sat with me on what was left of my porch. He said, "Marcus, my mom is scared to death. She wants to sell and move to Denver. This has been our home forever." I could hear the fear in his voice, real fear, the kind that gets in your bones. I started thinking about all those years in politics, all those connections I never thought I'd need again. Was it time to pull strings, or was I just another victim now? Just as I was about to confront Wendy, Tom put a hand on my shoulder. "Don't. You don't know who you're up against." And he was right, because the next morning Carter arrived with a legal team that looked like they could shut down a Fortune 500 company. He reviewed the documents and frowned. "Something's wrong here, Marcus. These signatures, the procedures, none of it adds up." He asked if I really wanted to go down this road. Let me tell you, when your lawyer hesitates, you know you're staring into a deep pit. That's when Sarah showed up, Tom's daughter, property rights attorney, 30-something, and sharp as a tack. She'd been tracking similar HOA scams across Colorado. "Your case fits a pattern," she told me, laying out evidence, fake associations popping up overnight, targeting families like mine, always with enough intimidation to make people fold. But even she was hitting walls. Lawyers wouldn't touch these cases, afraid of political blowback. That afternoon, I went to see Wendy at her cabin. She wasn't what I expected. Her walls were covered with conservation awards and photos of her dad. A forest ranger stared down at me. When she answered the door, her hands were shaking. "You think I'm a corporate puppet," she said, "but families like yours, sometimes you're fronts for developers. You know, I listened to her spill out all her fears, how she believed she was fighting for the land. Then I showed her the evidence Sarah found, how she'd been fed fake blueprints, forged documents, psychological reports, all designed to push people like me off our land. Her whole world started crumbling in front of me. She'd been manipulated just like the rest of us. That evening, Rosa hosted a gathering, just families, no outsiders. Turns out 7 other families had gotten hit with these phony fines. It was always just enough to push them towards selling, never the same amount, never the same violation. We realized if we didn't band together, we'd be picked off one by one. So we formed the Pine Valley Property Defense Coalition with Sarah as legal coordinator and Tom as our community voice. I kept my political past quiet for now. But then Carter got a tip, anonymous of course. There were meetings happening down the mountain at an old storage facility, cash payments, fake signatures, real estate records changing hands. The next day, we parked behind some pine trees with binoculars and cameras, hearts pounding like we were in some low-budget spy movie. And wouldn't you know it, Wendy showed up, so did a slick-looking guy named David Cross, driving a car that cost more than my truck. He talked about controlling the Thompson property like it was already his, flipping through fake plans and dropping envelopes full of cash. He called someone on his cell, Lieutenant Governor Martinez. The Pine Valley acquisition is on track. That's when it hit me. This was bigger than Pine Valley. We were looking at a coordinated multi-county fraud. They were harassing people, manipulating well-meaning conservationists, and buying out anyone who wouldn't bend. The next night, I stood in front of my neighbors and told them the truth. My name's Marcus Thompson. I used to be governor of this state. I've been hiding it because I wanted a normal life. But that's not in the cards for any of us now. Dead silence then. Tom burst out laughing, half from relief, half in disbelief. Some folks were angry I hadn't told them sooner. Others just wanted to know what we were going to do next. Sarah stepped up saying, "This is a statewide corruption case. We're not just fighting a local HOA. We're fighting political insiders and corporate thieves." Then Wendy, shaken and pale, came forward with an envelope. "David Cross has been paying me $3,000 a month to harass alpine families. I thought I was protecting the mountains. I was just another tool." Her confession cut through the anger. Some neighbors wanted her gone, but most saw she'd been played just like the rest of us. Carter, now with his official attorney general hat on, announced federal charges against Pinnacle Development, the lieutenant governor, and 3 state legislators. The media swarmed in. Suddenly our backyard meeting was national news. Pine Valley became ground zero for the biggest rural land fraud case in decades. But just when we thought we'd won the investigation, uncovered something even worse. This wasn't about luxury resorts or a highway. Mountain Vista Corporation, the real puppet master, had been quietly snapping up climate-safe properties all across the West Places with water-good elevation, safe from drought and wildfires. Pine Valley wasn't just pretty land. It sat atop an aquifer that could keep millions alive when the world went sideways. This was climate profiteering, plain and simple. Wendy became an advocate, founding Environmental Justice Watch, traveling in that old black SUV. Now a mobile legal clinic helping other communities spot and resist the same dirty tricks. Federal law changed. Pine Valley's victory led to new resident protections, disclosure laws, and oversight for all future climate refuge acquisitions. It became a model that spread nationwide. I learned retirement's not about sitting still, it's about choosing your battles. I found purpose again, organizing neighbors, rebuilding, protecting what matters, helping Rose in her garden, watching Tom's grandkids chase dragonflies by the lake. I still get calls from Helen in Denver, proud as can be, and you know what? I sleep better now knowing we didn't just save some land, we saved each other and maybe set a little spark for real justice. So what would you do if everything you'd built was threatened by people in suits and uniforms who said they knew better? Where's the line between protecting the future and stealing it? Drop a comment below. Let's hear your stories, your fights, your wins, your scars. Because Pine Valley's not alone in this, and neither are you. If you think this is over, stick around. This country's got a lot more stories, and the next one might just be yours.